Imagine the vast, infinite blue of the Indian Ocean. It's March of 2014. A state-of-the-art Boeing 777, Flight 828, is cruising at 35,000 feet. On board are 239 souls, parents going home, students starting new chapters, a honeymooning couple holding hands. The flight is routine. The weather is clear. But then, in the middle of the night, between one radar ping and the next, Flight 828 simply vanishes. No distress signal. No debris. No oil slick. Just a deafening, terrifying silence that would last for 12 years. For over a decade, the world obsessed over this mystery. Families spent their life savings looking for answers. Governments spent hundreds of millions of dollars scouring the ocean floor. They found old shipwrecks, they found discarded trash, but they never found a single bolt from Flight 828. Theories began to fill the void: hijacking, remote hacking, even supernatural disappearances. The families were left in a state of ambiguous loss, a torture where the mind refuses to accept death because there is no body to bury. Now, let's move to January 2026. A private deep-sea research firm, utilizing a new fleet of bioluminescent autonomous swarm drones, begins a mineral survey in a region of the ocean known as the Broken Ridge. This is a part of the world so deep and so jagged that previous sonar technology couldn't map it. It's a landscape of underwater canyons deeper than the Grand Canyon and mountains taller than the Alps, all hidden in total, crushing darkness. In February 2026, one of the drones, equipped with a new, subabyssal gravitational sensor, detects an anomaly. Not a piece of metal, but a specific density pattern buried beneath 30 feet of silt and marine snow at the very bottom of a 7-mile deep trench. This isn't just a discovery, it's a technological miracle. In 2026, we no longer need to see an object to identify it. We can read its molecular signature through the mud. When the high-resolution cameras finally reached the site in March 2026, the images that flashed back to the surface shook the global aviation industry to its core. They didn't find a scattered debris field. They found the plane. Flight 828 was sitting at the bottom of the trench, almost completely intact. The wings were still attached. Think about that. For the world, 12 years had passed. Children had grown up. Governments had fallen. But for the people inside that plane, time had almost stopped. They weren't just dead, they were caught in a temporal stasis that the 2026 technology was only beginning to understand. The blue glow wasn't electrical. It was a Cherenkov radiation effect, a sign that the plane had passed through a high-energy pocket of the atmosphere that had literally folded spacetime. But the most terrifying discovery was made when the ROV used a laser cutter to create a microscopic hole in the fuselage to insert a fiber optic camera. They expected to see a dark, water-filled tomb. Instead, they saw the passengers. They were sitting in their seats, their oxygen masks had dropped, but they weren't slumped over. Their eyes were open. Their skin was perfect. And they were moving. Not fast, they were moving so slowly that a single blink took 20 minutes. They were alive, caught in a second-by-second eternity, unaware that 12 years had passed outside their windows. The world thought Flight 828 was a tragedy of the past. But in 2026, we realized it was a tragedy of the present. The families who had mourned for a decade suddenly had to face a horrifying truth: their loved ones were still there, still flying, still breathing in a slow-motion nightmare at the bottom of the world. The question was no longer, where is Flight 828? The question was, how do we bring them back into our time without killing them? By May 2026, the site of Flight 828 has become a sovereign exclusion zone. The world's leading physicists and deep-sea engineers have converged on the Indian Ocean. The mission, Project Kronos. This is no longer a recovery mission. It is a biological and temporal rescue operation the likes of which humanity has never attempted. The biggest challenge in mid-2026 is the pressure-time paradox. If the ROVs attempt to pull the plane to the surface, the change in pressure will destroy the fuselage. But more importantly, if they move the plane out of the time bubble created by the blue radiation, the 12 years of missed time will hit the passengers' bodies in a single microsecond. They would age 12 years in an instant. Their hearts would fail, their lungs would collapse, and they would turn to dust before they reached the sunlight. Using quantum phase synchronization, a technology that was only theoretical until 2025, the team began the delicate process of equalizing the time inside the cabin with the time outside. They began to beam a specific frequency of light into the fuselage, designed to slowly speed up the atoms inside. It was like watching a movie being played in ultra-slow motion, and slowly, very slowly, turning up the playback speed. As the speed increased, the ROVs were able to record audio from inside the cabin. At first, it was just a low, guttural moan, the sound of a human voice stretched over years. But by the second week of May 2026, the sounds became recognizable. They heard the pilot's voice. He wasn't screaming. He was calm. He was saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing some unusual turbulence. Please ensure your seatbelts are fastened." To him, the plane had only been shaking for a few seconds. He had no idea he was at the bottom of the ocean. He had no idea his wife had remarried. He had no idea his daughter was now older than he was. But here is the Krederbjn twist, the part that the government tried to redact from the 2026 mission logs. As the time equalization reached 50%, the passengers began to realize something was wrong. They didn't look out the windows and see water. Because of the way space-time was folded, they looked out the windows and saw us. They saw the ROV cameras. They saw the lights of the research drones. But they didn't see them as machines. Because of the temporal distortion, they saw the people on the surface as shadow people, giants moving at impossible speeds, flickering like ghosts. The passengers began to panic, not because they were drowning, but because they thought they were being haunted by spirits from another dimension. The pilot's last recorded words before the final equalization were, "There are eyes in the clouds. God help us, the sky is full of eyes." On May 14, 2026, the final phase began. The plane was encased in a massive, pressurized time dome and slowly lifted. As it rose, the blue glow began to fade. The radiation was dissipating. The bubble was popping. When the plane finally broke the surface of the Indian Ocean, it was a moment that stopped the world. Every television on Earth was tuned in. The cabin door was opened by a team in specialized suits. They stepped inside, expecting to find 239 confused people. Instead, they found something that 2026 science still cannot explain. The seats were empty. The clothes were there. The luggage was there. The pilot's headset was resting on the yoke. The half-filled cups of coffee were still warm on the tray tables. But the people were gone. The isotopic chronomapping showed that as soon as the plane touched the surface of our normal time, the passengers didn't age, they transcended. Their atoms, which had been vibrating at a different frequency for 12 years, couldn't survive the sudden shift. They didn't die, they simply moved into the space between seconds. As we stand here in late May 2026, the mystery of Flight 828 has been solved, but the tragedy has only deepened. We found the plane. We heard their voices. We saw their faces. But we were 12 years too late to hold them. The deep-sea revelation taught us that the universe is far more fragile than we believe. We think time is a river that flows at one speed for everyone. But Flight 828 showed us that time is an ocean, and sometimes, you can fall through a crack in the surface and stay there forever, watching the world move on without you. The next time you're on a night flight, looking out at the dark horizon, and you feel a slight shiver of turbulence, just think of the blue glow. Think of the 239 souls who are still, in some way, flying between the seconds of our lives. They aren't in the past. They aren't in the future. They are right here, moving so slowly that we can't see them, waiting for a sunrise that will never come. The ocean kept its secret for 12 years. And even though we have the technology to reach the bottom of the trench, we still don't have the power to bring back what was lost to the abyss.